Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to imagine, just for a second, being the single most powerful, smartest, and successful person in the entire Ming Empire. I mean, you completely control the politics, you can elevate empresses with a single word, and you have literally limitless wealth. Sounds pretty good, right? But there's a catch. A huge, agonizing catch. You're a eunuch. Enter Chil Su. He's this ruthless mastermind who completely conquered the martial arts world, but he decided to risk his very existence in a highly forbidden reincarnation ritual. We're talking a ritual with a 99% mortality rate. And his motivation for taking such an insane risk? He literally just wanted to regress 50 years into the past so he could get his manhood back. He wants to finally set the stage to experience all the physical pleasures of life when he grows up.
So ask yourself, what if you ruled an entire empire but lacked the absolute one thing you wanted most? Our protagonist here mastered martial arts to the very point of rebirth and commanded absolute authority, yet he spent over 50 years as a complete virgin. Yeah. He realized that all the money, all the political power, and all the martial prowess in the world were just utterly pointless if he couldn't enjoy the fundamental physical joys of life in his adulthood. You know? He didn't want to conquer empires anymore. Well, actually, scratch that. He never really wanted to in the first place. He just wants to build the perfect foundation to become a legendary romantic in his second life.
Now, his timeline is equal parts tragic and, well, kind of comedic. Originally, he died at age 28 in the modern world, after getting struck by the infamous reincarnation truck. We've all seen how that goes. He woke up in a martial arts world as a 12-year-old boy, only to be immediately kidnapped by a complete maniac and castrated to be sold on the black market. Talk about awful luck. He then spent the next 50 years ruling the Ming Empire as a eunuch. But through his forbidden ritual, he doesn't just reincarnate into a new body. He experiences time regression. He snaps right back to that exact 12-year-old body right as that old man is about to castrate him. But this time, retaining all his grandmaster martial arts knowledge, he easily defeats his kidnapper, saving his most prized possession and finally securing his future as a normal man.
To achieve this glorious future, though, his entire martial arts philosophy absolutely had to change. In his past life, his development was permanently halted by cultivating cold, sharp yin energy, which is specifically designed for eunuchs. But in this new life, no way. He completely abandons those old ways. Instead, he focuses entirely on cultivating pure, burning yang energy. Why, you ask? Because yang energy builds masculine vitality, a flawless physique, and, frankly, incredible stamina, which is exactly what he needs to become the ultimate king of romance when he reaches adulthood.
Section 1. The Fallen Gongdong Sect.
Now, our protagonist needs a place to train, build up a heroic reputation, and, of course, gather some wealth to fund his new lifestyle. So he purposefully journeys through a brutal blizzard to join the Gongdong sect. Currently, it's a ruined, fallen faction with basically just one intact building. But Chil Su knows the future. He knows that within 50 years, this exact sect will rise from the ashes to become one of the top 5 factions in the world. And the absolute most crucial point is who he meets there. The sect literally only has one other disciple right now, a remarkably talented, unbelievably handsome youth named Jin Hui. Jin Hui is a total martial genius, but guys, there is a massive layer of dramatic irony here. Chil Su, who is absolutely desperate to find his future wife, is completely oblivious to the fact that Jin Hui is actually a girl disguised as a boy. So Chil Su constantly gets flustered and annoyed by Jin Hui's affectionate hugs, convinced that his senior disciple is just a very overly attached dude, while Jin Hui is secretly developing a massive crush on him.
Section 2. The Demonic Mutation.
Which brings us to the very first major test of their bond. To build his reputation and absorb some sweet vital energy, Chil Su convinces Jin Hui to help track down a monster that's been stealing local villagers' livestock. But what they find is definitely no wild animal. It's a massive, mutated demonic snake that has absorbed residual spiritual energy from the mountains. This whole thing turns into a cinematic, life-or-death action sequence. The beast is fast, incredibly dangerous, and covered in impenetrable scales. Jin Hui's sword strikes are literally bouncing right off its hardened armor. They quickly realize they have to decapitate the snake in a single decisive attack, but it's moving way too fast for Jin Hui to actually land the blow.
So in a critical, split-second decision, Chil Su sacrifices himself. He allows the giant snake to strike him squarely in the chest, injecting him with this lethal venom. But as he does, he uses his own belt to loop around the snake's neck and slides underneath it, forcing the massive creature to pause just long enough to create a perfect opening. Catching the signal, Jinhui leaps high into the air and delivers a decisive slash, cleaving the snake entirely in two. But, the battle's aftermath is where things get really interesting. Chil-Su suddenly collapses, burning from the inside out from the venom. In an absolute panic, a crying Jinhui leans down and sucks the venom straight out of his neck to save his life. Chil-Su wakes up to this incredibly intimate contact, leaving them both completely flustered and blushing awkwardly in the dirt. It's an iconic moment.
Section 3. Legacy of the Sword Lord.
While exploring the Snake's Lair, they stumble into this massive, hidden ancestral cave right at the mountain's summit. And guys, they hit the jackpot. The place is brimming with the lost martial arts texts of the Gongdong sect's ancestors and powerful ancient elixirs that have been cultivating energy for centuries. Now, what's really fascinating and hilarious here is the complete misunderstanding regarding the elixirs they find. They discover the Meidongsu, which is an ultimate elixir of life containing immense yin energy. Chil-Su is absolutely terrified of it. Consuming it would give him feminine characteristics and totally ruin his yang vitality. So what does he do? He puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, crying fake tears of joy and forcing Jinhui to consume it out of respect. Meanwhile, Chil-Su is gleefully snacking on a raw red yang plant he found tucked behind a rock, boosting his own masculine vitality to extraordinary heights, while actively helping Jinhui survive the intense demonic mental trial of the yin elixir.
But the real prize in this cave is locked behind a mechanical wall from 300 years ago. Over 2 painstaking days, our duo works to reverse engineer the lost Demon Slayer technique. First, they analyze these ancient sword marks on the walls. Then they carefully trace subtle footpaths worn into the floor. And finally, they realize that to open the door, they must channel their opposing energies. Jinhu's supreme yin and Chil-Su's boundless yang have to flow in perfect tandem.
But when the door finally opens, it actually triggers a trap. Chil-Su gets pulled into a powerful mental illusion created by the legendary celestial sword lord, Mujucha. And Mujucha just completely shatters Chil-Su's dream of a peaceful, pleasure-filled retirement. He reveals a terrifying prophecy. The extremist, warmongering blood demon cult is destined to return. A massive, inevitable disaster is looming over the entire region. To prevent a literal river of blood from ruining all of Chil-Su's romantic plans, Mujucha forces him to learn the supreme martial art, the dual harmony technique.
Section 4. Protecting the innocent and the yin.
Now armed with these lost techniques, our heroes return to civilization. Chil-Su is ecstatic to visit the Gongdong Inn. Why? Well, because he wants to meet the innkeeper's daughter, Heron, who in his past life was a famously beautiful and fierce warrior known as the Iceblade Princess. But when they arrive, they immediately find the inn under siege. The local business is being ruthlessly extorted by the Shadow Society, a growing group of bandits. The inn is going bankrupt, and right as our heroes walk in, 3 armed thugs are demanding money and threatening to kidnap young Heron to pay off her father's debts. And this group operates with total impunity because they're secretly backed by the massive and formidable Black Dragon sect.
This perfectly sets the stage for one of the most brutally comedic moments in the entire story. Chil-Su doesn't even bother drawing his sword against these thugs. He just loudly declares they're about to lose their most precious jewels, ducks a sword swing, picks up a simple twig and a spoon, and delivers precise, devastating blows to the bandits' groins. I'm entirely serious, he literally dispatches 3 armed men by cracking 6 eggs with a single spoon. It is completely ruthless, highly effective, and quickly starts building his legend.
But of course, that humiliation forces the Black Dragon sect to respond. They send out their very best assassin, Yu Rung, known as the Blade of the Tiger. What Chil-Su doesn't know, however, is that she's actually a 60-year-old master in disguise as a beautiful young woman. And she has a highly lethal quirk. She removes her veil, reveals a terribly burned face, and asks men if she is beautiful. If they lie, she turns them into eunuchs. But Chil-Su, using his unique energy vision, looks past the disguise at her true form and delivers this ridiculously poetic and sincere compliment. Because he is being completely genuine, he accidentally passes her impossible test, leaving the legendary assassin completely flustered and blushing.
Section 5. A Heavenly Demon Invitation. So, Chil-Su's actions have inadvertently triggered a massive shift in the martial world's balance of power. The era of peace is fracturing, and the demonic factions are finally making their move.
Suddenly, invitations are being dispatched across the land for the Heavenly Demon Festival, summoning all major sects, both orthodox and unorthodox alike. During all this rising tension, our protagonist actually comes face to face with one of the most bizarre masters of the evil path, the Lust Demon. This master actually combined an incomplete generation manual with the arts of joy to create the Forbidden Heaven transformation art. And what did this art do? The Lust Demon willingly castrated himself and completely transformed his body into a woman, all just to experience ultimate pleasure. It's a haunting, twisted reflection of Chil-Su's own past and his current desires.
And this brings us to the ultimate question of this explainer. With a massive demonic war looming on the horizon, and every faction gathering for the Heavenly Demon Festival, can our reincarnated protagonist actually protect his newly found sect and the people he's come to care about? Or will his dark, ruthless past as the Ming Empire's most feared eunuch finally catch up to him? You'll have to keep following the story to find out. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this absolutely wild journey, and I'll catch you next time.